Okay, I just needed
Hey,
to
hello out there. We're
Hey,
starting the
y'all.
meeting. We can hear your conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling to order the meeting for June for the State Board of Education of the State of Georgia. It looks like we have a quorum. We have, I believe, Mr. Donaldson is joining us out in TV land. Mr. Donaldson, are you there?
Yes, I am, and I'm trying to corral the rest of them that are here with me.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to hold off on voting. We'll build the agenda and go through that process, but we'll hold off until we make sure that everyone that can be on the line will be on the line. So we won't rush a vote or anything, so take your time with that. At this time, I'd like to recognize some of the guests that we had today. We have Marcy Campbell from the University of Georgia, Miss Angela Palm from GSBA, Shanna Downs from RESA, Deborah White from GACIS, Buddy Costley from Gale, we got Steve Bartlett from Mountain Ed, Roger Fitzpatrick from Mountain Ed, Claire Buck from GACIS. We have Sean Holder, Tracy Clark. We have Jason Flanders, Eric Carlisle, Anthony Price, Superintendent Norris Price from Baldwin County. Now also Hansel Burney III, Tara Burney from Baldwin County. We have, looks like Dr. Jeter's here from Wilkinson County. Good to see you, sir. Wendy Hay, Jennifer Lindstrom, Margaret Ciccarelli from Page, Tina Ingberg from Decoding Dyslexia, as well as Megan Swingle, Raymond Ray Jr., and Greg Arnsdorf from Cognia. How are you, sir? Did I miss anyone?
Sorry, I walked in late. Emiliona.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Anybody else? All right. Well, at this time, we're going to have a word of inspiration and the pledge, but before we do that, I'm going to ask Miss Helen if she will lead us in a brief invocation.
Would you please bow your heads and take a moment of silence if you want. Our Heavenly Father, how grateful we are that you're our God, how grateful we are that we can come to you. We ask for you in this presence for you to give us knowledge as we work for the children of the state of Georgia. We ask that you be with everyone here, give us all safe travels home. Bless our country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Helen. I'm excited to introduce our speaker today who, as of about 9 o'clock last night, didn't know he was going to be our guest speaker today. He's going to be giving us our inspiration. Mr. A.J. Goldman is going to be joining us today and is going to talk a little bit about sailing. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about his journey. And I don't want to spoil the fun, but something I was thinking about. He's a sailor, okay? And you all may not know this, but A.J. is actually our Teacher of the Year's other half. I won't say better half, other half. So we think about what we call like the second gentleman, right? The vice president's husband, second gentleman. I think it's appropriate you would say first gentleman. He's the first mate. How about that as the sailor? So without further ado, Mr. Goldman, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming today.
State Superintendent, Mr. Woods, State School Board Chair, Mr. Downey, State School Board members, and invited guests. My name is A.J. Goldman. As Mr. Downey mentioned, I'm the husband of the Georgia Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Sherry Goldman. It's my honor to give a brief talk today. In 2010, I sailed by myself from San Francisco to Hawaii. I want to tell you about this journey and some of the adventures and difficult situations I had along the way. Today's talk begins with a failure. This is a race, and since 2010, this race happens every even year. The year prior, in the odd year, you have to qualify for this race, which is a 400-mile race out to the ocean and back. So I trained for about 5 years to qualify for this race. It was an absolute goal of mine. So in 2007, I tried to qualify for the 2008 Single-Handed Transpact. I did not qualify, and I failed. And I felt miserable, and I was a little depressed. Well, my best friend in the world, Sean Price, who has since passed away from cancer, said, AJ, I'm not going to let you fail. And I'm going to do everything I can to motivate you and to help you to accomplish your goals. So in 2009, the next chance that I could qualify for the 2010 Single-Handed Transpact, I did so. And I passed that qualifying race. And so in 2010, I was set to sail off to Hawaii by myself. Well, it was June 21st, 2010, and about 2 days before we were supposed to leave, a very big storm happened in California, right off the coast. And the United States Coast Guard came to us and said, please do not go out. And we said, well, we're fine. And they said, okay. And sure enough, on the day of the race, the storm was even worse than it was before. The Coast Guard contacted all of us. There were 15 different boats going, all crewed by single-handed sailors. And they said, look, if you go out, we're not going to come and get you if you have a problem. And we said, okay, we totally understand. We are a little bit, we are very focused. So we said, we're going to go anyways. And so we left at about 0800 that morning, and we got out fine. We were past the Golden Gate, and we were heading to Hawaii. About 1 o'clock that morning on the first night is when I ran into the most difficult situations I've ever seen in my life. The seas were tremendous. It was blowing 45 knots sustained, gusts over 60 knots, and the seas were about 20 feet. So when you get down into the trough, the sea was higher than my mast. That was about 40 feet tall. So I was like, okay, this is not so great. So I went down below, and I had an autopilot. I was reefed down to a triple reef and a staysail jib, and I was heading the right direction. But waves come in sets of 3. So this wave hit me, and I got knocked off course. I said, okay, well, the autopilot's going to kind of redirect me. And so sure enough, kind of brought me up, but not all the way. The second wave hit me and really knocked me off course. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is not good. The worst situation you want to be is beam on, which is broadside on to a breaking wave. Well, sure enough, that's exactly the situation I was in. And so I was going down. This is, again, now it's about 2 in the morning, so it's pitch black, but I could see the white, of course, coming off the waves, which is great. And so sure enough, this big wave coming. I saw it coming, and I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be bad. So I was down below. I put one hand on my life raft, thinking I may have to deploy my life raft and abandon my ship. And I said, okay, let's see what happens. Sure enough, the wave hits me, knocks me down. My mast was in the water. On the port side, I saw green water all the way in every single porthole. And I was like, okay, I am almost inverted. I'm like, okay, well, let's see if she comes back up or not. And if not, I'm going to have to abandon ship. And I was calm, and I just sat there, and sure enough, it's felt like an eternity. It probably took about 30 seconds. The boat finally came up to upright. And I was like running around, yay, I'm not dead. Okay, so then I realized that the autopilot was not able to handle these conditions. And so I went up to the cockpit, and I double-clicked myself on in 2 different locations so I wouldn't be swept over by a breaking sea. And I hand-steered for 30 hours straight. Until the storm passed. Funny story is the next day, it was still awful conditions, but it was daylight. This big yacht veered off course and started heading right at me. And I was like, this is kind of strange. And then it got closer and closer. So I hailed the yacht on VHF. I said, can you please tell me your intentions? And the captain came on and said, yes, we're here to rescue you. And I said, no, don't rescue me. I'm in a race. I'll be disqualified. And they said, oh, why are you out here? I'm like, I explained it. And he said, oh, boy. So he let me go, and I kept going. About 3 days, it was once the storm broke, it was perfect sailing, absolutely gorgeous. And then I ran into becalmed weather, which, interestingly, is more frightening than a storm. I was completely becalmed. There was no wind whatsoever, and I was starting to go backwards. I was just drifting, and there's nothing I could do. It was a very passive moment. In a storm, you could be very aggressive, and with no wind, there's nothing you could do except to sit there and wait. And so that was a very difficult situation for 2 days straight. Finally, the wind came up, and I got my wind back, and I raised all my sails, and I was really happy again, and I was sailing to Hawaii. Then there's a lot to tell between now and then, but 21 days later, at 31 nautical miles out, I saw land. And I saw it over the horizon. I'm like, oh, there's another civilization out there. I'm actually going to make it. And I radioed in to the race committee that I was getting close so they can get prepared. This is a race. There's 15 members in this race. I will tell you that I was last place. So everyone else was there before me, which means that everyone was on the beach waiting for me. And they all knew I was coming. They could track me along the way. And sure enough, I made the last tack, and there's this longitudinal line that you have to cross, and I knew right when I crossed it, and everything went silent. And the race chair came on and said, congratulations, second verse, what's the name of my boat? Congratulations, you have just completed the single-handed transpact. And it was one of the best moments of my life. It was quite an inspiration. And if it wasn't for my best friend who inspired me and all my mentors, there's no way I could have accomplished my goals. So thank you for listening to my story today. It's been an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Truly an inspiration, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I get on a pontoon boat in a lake, and I'm like, oh, okay, I cannot imagine what it's like to be so far out by yourself on a boat, and you see nothing but water, and knowing that you are in between two bodies of land and in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, and
to have
about
that,
30,000 feet of ocean below you.
it's wild. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Thank you.
And I can only assume that there were lots of periods of reflection, and everything that's happened in your life, in your mind's eye, kind of passes through your head while you're out there on the open sea.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the number one thing which I remember is how much I miss human contact, and how lonely I felt, and how much I really desire, and how much we all desire each other, and how much we need each other, is something that I reflected on.
Right. One thing I failed to mention when I was introducing you, you're an educator as well, right? Math?
Yes, sir. 28 years.
How many years?
28.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Would you do us the honor in leading us in the pledge?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Hey, Jason?
Yes.
Before he leads us, I don't know if people know that he was a gymnast at Dartmouth also. There's so many.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again, AJ. Appreciate it. All right, we'll now move to the public hearing portion of our meeting. This is regarding State Board Rule 160-4-2-.34. It looks like we have one person who has signed up to speak, a parent, Wendy Hay. And say we traditionally will allow 3 minutes to speak. I'll just keep it up here, and as we're getting kind of close, I'll kind of let you know that we're getting there, okay?
Okay, thank you. Superintendent Woods, Chairman Downey, and school board members, thank you for the opportunity to speak today regarding the clarifications to be made to State Board Rule 160-4-2, dual enrollment, as it relates to graduation pathway option B and required social studies classes. I applaud the state board's granting of option B to students in the state of Georgia, and I believe it's a great opportunity to allow students to focus on workforce preparation while still in high school. Following a traditional high school path isn't the best option for some, and option B adds incentive, clear value, and benefit to those students. Understanding that 9th and 10th grade required classes for option B students are intended to provide essential knowledge in math, ELA, science, and social studies, I support the clarifying language to require specifically American government and personal finance and economics. At a minimum, students graduating under option B should have knowledge that allows them to not only advance in the workforce, but to have knowledge of American civics so they may act as responsible citizens, as well as be capable of personal financial management, just as now required under option A. By now adding the specific social studies classes required, it eliminates any potential interpretation by Georgia school districts, it strengthens the knowledge base of the students, and it aligns with the minimum knowledge to achieve even a basic GED. Thank you for taking the time to consider this change and for clarifying the state board rule.
All right, we have had no one else sign up to speak. We'll move to building the agenda today. And I will start with the budget committee. And I understand that we've had some more of our board members that have joined us out in TV land. I know we had Mr. Donaldson. Who else do we have on the line now?
Miss Long, Frank Richardson, Sam DeJarnett.
All right. Welcome, gentlemen. Mr. Donaldson, we will start with the budget committee. Do you have items to go on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. The Budget Committee met yesterday and agreed to move items 1 through 25, 27 through 39 to the consent agenda, with item 26 being pulled for a separate vote.
All right, items 1 through 25, items 27 through 39 to be put on the consent agenda Item 26 pulled for a separate vote. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we will move on to Rules Committee items. Ms. Head?
Yes. Rules Committee met yesterday. Item 1 will be pulled for a separate vote. Number 12 has been pulled for further discussion in the future. But items 2 through 11 to the consent agenda and number 13 to the consent agenda.
Items 2 through 11, item 13 on consent, 12 is tabled, essentially pulled completely,
Yes.
and item 1 is a separate vote.
Correct.
All right. We'll move on to District Flexibility and Charter Schools Committee items. Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The District Flexibility and Charter School Committee items number 1 through 4 should be moved to the consent agenda.
Very good. 1 through 4 to consent. I do not believe we had any business that needed to be brought over from audits. I know that Mr. Royal's not here with us today, but I don't believe we had anything that would go over. For the good of the agenda, are there any other items that need to be placed?
I'd like to make a recommendation, move the following to the consent agenda. The individual student waivers, the minutes of the May 11, 2022 executive session meeting, the minutes of the May 11 through 12, 2022 state board meeting, the minutes of the June 9th, 2022 executive session meeting, the minutes of the June 9th, 10th, 2022 called state board meeting, the June 2022 personnel report, and the June 2022 legal report, with the exception of one legal appeal being pulled in a separate vote.
Did we get all that? All right, that'll be placed on the consent agenda with the exception of the one item that will be pulled for a separate vote. Anything further that, for the good of the board, needs to be placed on the agenda? All right, we will take a brief recess. We will come back at, is 9:30 okay? Okay, at 9:30, and we'll reconvene with the prepared agenda. Go ahead and resume our business. Members, take a couple minutes, if you've not already. We have consent agenda that's been placed before us. The items that we brought over from committee. Take a couple of minutes to look at it, and I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Zoller. Do I have a second? Mr. Sweeney, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Approving consent agenda, say aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
Are you rushing?
You in a hurry today?
Any opposed?
No, sorry.
All right, consent agenda passes. So we have some items that were pulled for separate vote. It looks like we have the executive committee item, legal appeal to the state board case 2022-10. I will entertain the motion regarding that.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve legal appeal to the state board case 2022-10.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, unanimous vote, thank you. All right, we'll move on to budget committee item that's been pulled for a separate vote. This is regarding the contract with the Southern Regional Education Board. Mr. Donaldson, this comes out of your committee. I'll allow you to kind of enlighten us as to this item.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, we have a conflict with a board member on the Southern Regional Education Board, so that's the reason it's being pulled for a separate vote.
Very good. I will at this time entertain a motion to approve this particular separate item.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Donaldson.
All right, Ms. Rice already made the motion. Would you like to second it, Mr. Donaldson?
Sure thing.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it. We move on to Rules Committee item that's been pulled for a separate vote. This is regarding State Board Rule 160-4-2-.34, dual enrollment. And I will turn this to Ms. Petty for any comments. This comes out of your committee.
Yes, this is just the clarification for the option B diploma. This is going to be a great help to our students.
Very good. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kenmore. Ms. Rice, second. Any discussion on this rule? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Well, that concludes our business, and so I will now turn it over to Superintendent Woods for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, we have a couple of presentations today. Before I do begin, I just do want to recognize Ms. Deborah White, head of GASIS. This will be her last official, attendance here with us today. So she's served with us. She'll be transferring over to Dr. Buck, and appreciate the work there. But again, just wanted to say thank you to Deborah for your many years of service. I know retirement will look good. My wife tells me retirement is good. I think with that, but again, I just wanted to say again, thank you on behalf of myself, the Department of Education, for your years of service, and again for your presence here and for your support. So again, thank you very much. Well, again, in kind of the vein of celebrating, we'll kind of switch gears a little bit. But I do want to introduce Dr. Norris Price. Again, she has served as the superintendent of Baldwin County since July 2014, named the 2022 Georgia Superintendent of the Year, and one of 4 finalists for the National Superintendent of the Year. Under Dr. Price's leadership, the high school graduation rate in Baldwin County has increased from 65 to 85%. She has implemented numerous initiatives that have resulted in increased student performance, including the Reed Baldwin County Literacy Initiative, the Be Well School-Based Health Clinic, and obtaining more than $10 million in grant funds for the district. If you've never had the pleasure of hearing Dr. Price's story, it truly is quite amazing. And I would dare say that when you look at what I would say almost a rags to riches type story of where she came from. I had the pleasure of hearing it, a few months ago, and just an amazing story of showing what, you can accomplish anything when you have the right mindset, have the right dedication, have the right spirit and focus of what can be overcome. And I guess even having a story of coming up, I believe it was in New York, is that correct? Now, how she found Milledgeville, Georgia, when you're looking at the map and said, you think maybe Atlanta or, somewhere else, but no, I think Milledgeville, that's the place I want to go. It's kind of unique, but we did want to recognize her today and again, just celebrate, because it's not always, that we get a finalist in the National Superintendent recognition for a nation, but today, I do want to present you on behalf of the Department of Education for your work and many years of service and for your success. Make a mess of all this stuff here. But I did want to say congratulations for being recognized as Georgia's Superintendent of the Year, but also one of the finalists as well. So again, I want to say congratulations. So please.
Well, thank you, Chairman Downing, board members, of course, Superintendent Woods. Thank you for this recognition. It is truly an honor and humbling to get the recognition. But I do, before I forget, have to say that all the accolades that I receive is because I have an incredible team of not only leaders, but also teachers, parents, the board, in the community, and I do have several people here, principals. If you would stand, I have my principals here, so thank you for being here. I couldn't do it without them. So we have our elementary, middle, and high school principals here, and then I also have our RESA folks here, Dr. Cordy and Dr. Jeter representing our RESA. So thank you for being here. And of course, the love of my life will be 39 years on July 3rd, and that is my husband, Dr. Anthony Price. I couldn't do this work without him, and so he is here. So if you would stand so we can acknowledge him. He's always in the background supporting me and encouraging me, and of course, my son. I have one son, and he's in San Antonio and couldn't be here today. But I just want to say that my story, when you talk about how did I end up in Milledgeville, all the matrix that describe me, I shouldn't be here today and I should not be recognized, definitely not be the Georgia Superintendent of the Year. I was born in the Dominican Republic. I'm an immigrant that came to this country when I was 10 years old. My first language is Spanish. And we settled in New York City, had a lot of challenges along the way, grew up in poverty, and but had educators that saw the potential in me and encouraged me to take advantage of what this great country had to offer. So I am the first person in my family to graduate from high school and the first person in my family to graduate from college, and went into education because I wanted to help others like me, and I didn't want them to be defined by their socioeconomic status or their race or ethnicity or station in life. And so I got into education and went to college in rural Ohio from the largest city because my counselor chose that college for me. had a wonderful experience, and went back to New York City to teach, and taught there, and ended up in Fairfax County, Virginia for 10 years, where I was a teacher, principal, and then ended up in Georgia because my husband wanted to be close to family. And so we were in Fulton County for 10 years. I was a principal at Woodland Elementary in Sandy Springs, and then went to Clark County in Athens as deputy superintendent, and then ended up in Milledgeville, Georgia. So from the largest city in the country to one of the smallest, Milledgeville, Georgia. But it's been a wonderful experience. I've been there 8 years, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I believe that God puts you where he needs you, and where he wants you to do his work. And Milledgeville, Baldwin County is that for me. We've done incredible work. We have tremendous challenges, but together as a team, we've been able to collaborate and really impact the lives of children. We have generational poverty in our community, and I say that the only way we're gonna break the cycle of poverty is through education. So that's what our mission is, and that's what we've been on this journey, is to change the trajectory of the lives of our children in our community and possibly impact the economic development and the workforce in our community. So I will continue to do the good work. The board just offered me another 3-year contract, and I accepted, so I must be doing a pretty good job. So I will be in Baldwin for another 3 years with my team doing the incredible work, but I couldn't do it without all the folks in our community helping us to do the work of educating our children. So thank you for this recognition. I really appreciate it.
Again, Dr. Price gave you just a small glimpse of her story. I think if you hear the full story, it's quite inspirational with that, and I think gives anyone hope that you can succeed and what you put your mind to it. The next thing we're going to transition into our 2022 Georgia Teacher of the Year. Sherry Goldman, again, has been tasked with the Teacher Burnout Task Force report, so she is going to present that. The most important thing that we can provide in the classroom if we want students to succeed as an excellent teacher, that is where success happens. We don't see many teachers or students up here not en masse, but as I always share, the classroom is the most important location that we have in education. Unfortunately, we are at risk of losing many of these highly qualified educators if we don't address issues leading to burnout in the profession. We asked Sherry to chair the Teacher Burnout Task Force to both identify issues leading to teacher burnout and possible actual solutions. She was joined by the other 9 finalists of the Georgia Teacher of the Year, along with the classroom teacher representatives from Page, GAE, and Educators First. Meetings were conducted or moderated by the Carl Vincent Institute of Government at UGA. The result of this report prepared by Carl Vincent Institute, which includes these highly dedicated teachers, reflects the causes of burnout in the profession, along with the framework of the state, local districts, and schools. And again, this was something, when I first came in office, almost 8 years ago, we had something in which we looked at and we addressed this, same thing, looking at what were some issues that we faced, and again, had a pretty in-depth study, talking about testing, talking about things that did have the impact. But now we've had basically almost 2 and, a third year of pandemic and coming out of that. And definitely I think we've seen that has had an impact on all of us. But right now it is trying to, as we prepare to move out, what do we do to help, our teachers? What do we do to help to make sure that our kids have the very best instructional leadership that we possibly can provide them? I appreciate Governor Kemp, and again with the raises and things he's done to support that, with school safety as well. So at this time, Sherry, I want to turn it over to you and let you share your findings.
Oh, there it is. Yes, so thank you all so much for being here today. I'm really excited to be able to share this with you. Is everything okay? Oh, I thought maybe you're saying you couldn't hear me. So no, I'm very excited to be here with you all to share this report. This is so incredibly important for education in Georgia, for our teachers in Georgia, and for our students in Georgia. Looking back, we have had quite a time of it in education over the past 2 years. I think heart-wrenching and tumultuous, those would not be misplaced adjectives for this era. In my role as Georgia Teacher of the Year, I've had a window into many different worlds through my travels, so I recognize that those extremes may not have been the case for everyone, but I'm pretty confident that most, if not everyone in this room, would agree with me that it has overwhelmingly been the case for most. And it's so easy for us to step into the mindset that all will be wonderful if we can just put it behind us. But if we really think about it, we can't truly put this school year or last school year or any school year for that matter into the rearview mirror, nor should we, because each year in education is not like a book that you read and when you close it, you just put it on the shelf. Each year in education builds on itself, it informs the next, a year or a series of years reveal for us the successes that we need to build on and the directions that we need to take or the challenges that are ahead. And we know that knowledge, past and present, is power. So with knowledge is power, that means that our circumstances are too, because of how much knowledge we gain from our circumstances, even the terrible ones. So when we find ourselves in trying times, in challenging times, do we make the choice to remain captive to the roadblock, or do we choose to find the courage to seize the moment and view the challenge as an opportunity to reclaim our path or define our new direction? As I come to the end of my tenure, we're releasing this report on teacher burnout, and I'm asking all of us together to seize this moment. You are in this meeting today because you are some of the people who collectively have the expertise and the influence and the courage and the passion and the love that it will take to seize this moment that we are in for creating an environment in education where everyone, students, teachers, staff, administrators, superintendents thrive, an environment that connects everyone to the shared dream that we all have of what education should be and could be. We cannot change how we got here, but we can change how we go forward. And that begins with understanding what is happening. To move forward and to lay the foundation for positive momentum, for a united strategic response, we need a collective understanding of what burnout is and what its root causes are. Burnout actually is not metaphorical jargon. It does have an official definition, and that definition is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. And it presents as feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. And that sounds like so very many of the teachers that I know and have met, and I'm going to be so bold as to say that y'all know and have met too. Depleted, exhausted, mentally distant, negative, cynical, and ineffective. Those are not the kind of teachers that we want our teachers to be. Those are not the kind of teachers our students and our families want our teachers to be. Those are not the kind of teachers that our teachers want to be. And the importance for sharing the fact that there is an official definition for burnout is not just found in the fact that there is a definition, but rather the importance is also in the fact that the definition establishes that it's an organizational problem that requires an organizational solution. It is beyond the employees themselves as individuals. The cure for burnout requires organizational proactivity, not reactivity. It requires intentional preventative measures and strategies implemented by organizations to avert that burnout to begin with. And I think Desmond Tutu said it best. He said, we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they are falling in. I am grateful to Task Force member Rebecca Carlisle from Gwinnett County. She shared this book with our group as we began our work to peel this issue apart. It's called The Burnout Epidemic, The Rise of Chronic Stress and How We Can Fix It. It was published towards the end of last year, and in it, Jennifer Moss explains that the preventative measures and strategies that organizations take need to address what have been identified by research as the 6 main causes of burnout. And we could call these 6 causes the why they're falling in the river. Those 6 causes are workload, perceived lack of control, lack of reward or recognition, poor relationships, lack of fairness, and a values mismatch. And very clearly, all 6 of these causes speak to workplace culture. Taken collectively, the 6 causes of burnout manifest debilitating, demoralizing feelings of irrelevance and incompatibility. And when I think about the teachers who have shared with me about their personal experience with burnout or why they're leaving the profession, unfortunately, I can hear voices representing every single one of these causes as they share about their organizational stressors. I'm incredibly grateful to Superintendent Woods for reaching out to me and asking me to lead a no-holds-barred teacher burnout task force. Our task force had 2 main charges. First was to identify the major factors contributing to teacher burnout in our state, and also to determine possible solutions and strategies that can be implemented on the school, district, and state levels to increase teacher retention, provide teachers with support they need and deserve, and elevate the level of recognition for the professionalism of teachers. And I believe that it can be said in many respects that the conclusions that we came to in the report I'm sharing with you today speak very directly to the importance of and the power in collective teacher efficacy. The teachers in this task force, as Superintendent Woods mentioned earlier, included me and the other 9 finalists for Georgia Teacher of the Year from my 2022 cohort, in addition to teacher representatives from PAGE, GAE, Educators First, and the Department of Education. These teachers were selected to participate because of their recognition by peers as teacher leaders with a passion for the profession, a commitment to the well-being of their students and families who they serve, and their ability to articulate and represent the needs of their entire community. Additionally, they were selected because as a group, they represent all levels of education, elementary, middle, and high. They represent a variety of content areas and classroom configurations, SPED, ESOL, and they also represent both rural and non-rural districts. Our first meeting in February was a focus group facilitated by members of the Education Policy Team from Carl Vinson Institute of Government at the University of Georgia. And in small groups, the participants shared their observations, their knowledge, and their expertise about what they believed are factors contributing to teacher burnout in Georgia as a result of the pandemic, as a result of policies and procedures initiated at the school level, policies and procedures initiated at the system level, and policies and procedures initiated at the state level. They further identified the top 3 factors at each of those levels, school, system, and state, and made suggestions for how those factors might be minimized or eliminated. Additionally, in small groups, we were asked to respond to the following questions. What are the consequences of teacher burnout for students? The consequences of burnout for the teaching profession and teacher preparation, and the consequences on the day-to-day operation of schools. In our whole group discussion, we further considered what is making you stay in education? If you're thinking about walking away from education, why? And would you encourage others to enter the profession of teaching? If yes, why? And if no, why not? And these discussions were incredibly raw and honest and insightful. Following that first meeting, together with Carl Vinson facilitators, the feedback was analyzed, and the issues related very specifically to COVID, like social distancing and masks and contact tracing, we pulled those items out. And we organized the remaining feedback, which was now focused on more institutional factors contributing to teacher burnout, and we were able to organize them into 5 overarching themes. And those themes or threads were assessment, preserving and protecting time, pressures and unrealistic expectations, teacher voice and professional growth, and mental health and wellness. And for each of these themes, we assigned the related school, system, and state level feedback that had been identified in the focus groups. So that when the task force met again in March, our goal was to develop actionable solutions for each of these 5 themes and threads, again with the help from the team at the Carl Vinson Institute. As during the first meeting, our participants were passionate, they shot straight from the hip, and they were remarkably insightful. The suggestions that came out of that meeting rounded out the report that I'm sharing with you today, and so I will step into the pieces of the report. First, starting, just so you understand the organization of the report, it's organized into 3 main parts. We have the background, and in the background we summarize the previous explorations of teacher attrition and the responses to those findings, the structure of our task force, and the methodology that we used in partnership with Carl Vinson. Then we have an exposition of each theme or thread, and the parts of those exposition, there's a definition of the theme, there are recommendations for how the state, how districts and school leaders can work collaboratively to address that thread or theme, and then there are specific actions related to those recommendations. The third part of the report is called the Framework for Action, and this section follows the exposition of the five threads, and it outlines best practices and essential questions for the implementation of selected recommendations and actions. Looking at the first theme, assessment, defined as our stated theme is, while at the state level high-stakes testing requirements have been reduced to be more in line with federal testing requirements, the number of district-level tests has increased. And the specific recommendations, the state, local school districts, and school leaders should work collaboratively to accomplish the following: inventory, evaluate, and reduce tests at the local level to preserve instructional time, reduce redundancy, and ensure a more consistent benchmark of student performance, and build on the progress made in reducing the number of state-required tests by continuing to lower the emphasis of high-stakes testing in the accountability system. Actions that were called for that are specific to these recommendations include, again, an inventory of local assessments to eliminate redundancies, including current classroom teachers in the discussions of the adoption of new assessments and grading policies and procedures, making time spent on assessments transparent to the public, and reevaluating the disproportionate weight placed on testing as it relates to CCRPI and TICAS so that there is a fairer picture of performance. Our second theme is preserving and protecting time. Making up for lost in-person instructional time due to the pandemic is essential to the state's academic recovery. Teachers' planning and instructional time must be treated as sacred, both for our state's academic recovery to be successful and effective going forward. The recommendations: prioritize teachers' time to plan for and deliver quality instruction without being interrupted for excessive meetings, trainings, or other duties. Seek ways to streamline and reduce time-intensive paperwork and processes. And increase the awareness of and appreciation for the job responsibilities that teachers perform outside of instruction, such as planning, making parent contacts, grading, engaging in professional learning, and completing other paperwork. Specific actions that were called for related to these recommendations include compensating teachers who cover classes or take on additional classes or are assigned other prep or other duties during their planning, evaluating meetings to define their purpose and value and establish a productive meeting culture, ensuring adequate time for training on new initiatives while protecting existing responsibilities, streamlining intensive paperwork and data collection, evaluating waivers on duty-free lunch, streamlining lesson plan requirements and procedures, and defining quality instruction by student-teacher interaction rather than by mandated checklists or formulaic artifacts. Our third theme, pressures and unrealistic expectations. Teachers have endured unrealistic expectations that ultimately hinder student achievement. Coming out of the pandemic, the desire to return to normal has also come with an unrealistic expectation that student learning and achievement should immediately return to pre-pandemic levels without giving teachers the time, support, resources, and compassion to meet students at their current academic level. The recommendations are to set realistic post-pandemic academic benchmarks, identify ways to communicate a fair and clear picture of the hard work occurring in classrooms, continue the commitment to compassion over compliance, and establish productive partnerships among educators, students, families, and community stakeholders. Specific actions include balancing and reducing class size, evaluating the class size waiver, providing teachers with additional support on disruptive discipline, eliminating discipline data from the school climate star rating, increasing funding in the talent pipeline for support staff, looking at what can be rolled off of teachers' plates when new initiatives are rolled on, looking at fostering understanding between educators, parents, and students so that students are successful and educator efforts and expectations are supported, and modernizing the funding formula. Our fourth theme is teacher voice and professional growth. Teachers serve on the front lines and directly impact the learning of students. We must support those who support our students. The recommendations are to go beyond recovery and reimagine an educational system that engages teacher voice and treats teachers as professionals, and clearly define and provide support for teachers throughout their professional careers, from first-year teacher to teacher leader and beyond. Specific actions include protecting healthcare and retirement benefits, extending the teacher salary scale to fund step raises at each stage on every level, evaluating teacher certification and salary schedule waivers, removing barriers to certification and endorsement, transforming the evaluation system from a punitive tool to a professional growth tool, making sure that coaches, consultants, and leaders have classroom experience and credibility, making current classroom teachers part of shared decision-making, providing them with leadership opportunities on councils and task forces, personalizing professional development, and establishing strong induction and mentorship programs. And our last theme is mental health and wellness. Just as it created stress on students and families, the pandemic both contributed additional stressors and exposed existing stressors. The recommendations are to provide a stable and supportive environment in which teachers and teacher morale are valued, provide additional administrative support, recognition, and access to wellness programs, and recognize that teachers are people with the same challenges, stresses, hopes, dreams, and potential we all have, and treat them accordingly. Specific recommendations include mental health and support programs for teachers and staff and for students, offering professional development for teachers and administrators on how to partner with school counselors, reevaluating how we label schools, and recognizing teachers for efforts that go beyond test scores, creating collaborative environments that rather than competitive ones, nurturing cultures of trust, respect, autonomy, empathy, and communication, and ensuring that school leaders can be a voice for their teachers in schools within districts. As I mentioned, there's a third part to the report called the Framework for Action. Pages 20 through 35. Looks like an appendix, but it is not an appendix. It is just as important as the pages that provide the exposition of the 5 themes. What it does is it serves to outline best practices and essential questions for the implementation of many of those actions that I just outlined for you. Some of the actions that extended from the recommendations were able to be captured in a single bullet point. So, for example, modernize the funding formula for education so that it properly supports the needs of students, captures it. But some of the actions couldn't be captured under a single bullet point. Task force members had even more specific suggestions related to those actions. For me to go through 15 pages of all those details, I won't do that to you, but I'll give you an example of one just so you can see how it looks in the Framework for Action section of the paper. So we take action number 5. This one comes from Teacher Voice and Professional Growth. It states, transform the teacher evaluation system from a punitive tool to a professional growth tool that supports the development of teachers from beginning teacher to teacher leader. And here we have 6 essential questions that build off of that. Are observations and evaluations approached with a punitive gotcha mindset or with a growth mindset? And I'll abridge as I speak. How are administrators supported through training to approach observations and evaluations? How are administrators trained to coach teachers? How are observations and evaluations being used to inform and carry out teachers' professional goals? Does the manner in which TECAS is being implemented contribute to positive school culture? And how can guidance from the state provide for and ensure a more universally consistent scoring system? So that gives you an example of how we take many of the actions and break them apart even more specifically in that section of the paper and why it is so very important. So to go back to what I shared with you about what burnout is, the reasons why teachers are falling in the river were heard very loud and clear in the work that we did in this task force. We heard about all 6 of these causes of burnout. So now that this report is being released, state leaders, district leaders, community members need to listen to the voices of these teachers together with teachers, not in silos. But we need to talk about this together. These voices need to be listened to, understood, internalized, empathized, and we need to seize this moment to act on the tremendous opportunity that these voices offer us to bring educators back from burnout so that they can again experience the joy and the passion that comes from the privilege that we have in being teachers. Clearly, the causes for teacher burnout and the degree to which burnout manifests itself is different in different people, depending on the school they're in, the district they're in. But I'm hopeful that together, all education stakeholders can turn to one another as partners in this purpose and find a way to collaboratively seize this moment to encourage schools and districts to perform their own reflective, localized analyses of factors contributing to burnout and the solutions that can be offered. Together with the knowledge from the state report, burnout can be addressed that much more strategically and thoroughly and effectively. Some of the strategies that are identified in the state report or in the local findings, they'll be able to be implemented immediately, but others might not be as easy to implement, either due to logistics or process or funding or the hurdles that come with shifting from bad habits to best practices. But none of those should deter us from this opportunity to turn lemons into lemonade, from our obligation to function with a long-term vision for what we all want for our schools, for our students, our teachers, our communities. Teachers do not want to walk away. Their motivation for why they originally became a teacher, their aspirations to make that dream come true, their heartfelt passion, they are the same motivations and aspirations and passions that every single one of us on every level of education holds in our hearts. But too many of our teachers are on empty. And we have to take hold of this opportunity that we have to pour into them so that they can pour into our students until they overflow. Because when we elevate and take care of our teachers, we elevate and take care of our students, and that is what it is all about. And I thank you so very much for giving me this time and this opportunity. Thank you.
You don't have any questions for Phil?
Any questions?
Fantastic report. Thank you very much for all of your efforts on this, and you're making me thirsty with a picture of the one thing that stood out is that when you're talking about assessments, the mention that district level tests have increased. Now, we've got over 180 districts.
Yes.
So is that a finding across all of them?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That is a common thread across many districts. That district level testing is expanding. Districts are performing their own benchmark testing. They have their own unit testing. They have assessments that go with various curriculum that they purchase. So all of these taken together and add GMAS at the end is taking a considerable amount of instructional time.
Sherry, do you think that's because with GMAS, our summative test, it really just tells us how well if I'm teaching fifth grade, how well my fifth grade students do compared to other fifth grade students. So teachers in the classroom are looking for more formative things. Like if I'm teaching fractions, I need to have some tests in fractions to see how well they have mastered. So there's formative things. That's why the systems are doing more benchmark things to come out with a summative score.
Right. I think there are a couple of things that are motivating the local assessments. Some of it is to get more specific data. I mean, the assessments on the local level do provide more specific, immediately actionable data for teachers. But also I think it's kind of a, let's see how we're going to do at the end, kind of predictive measures. And so, but when taken together as a whole, on top of regular teacher classroom assessment, the regular test that the teacher gives in the classroom, that the teacher feels that she needs to give, whether it's formative or summative, which very much used to be in kind of the hands of the teacher, it just becomes too much.
I had another question, and this falls into the TEKS area and so forth, and kind of the post-pandemic era, because I know growth is an important component of TEKS, and this may be more of a Godot response than anything else. How is that being balanced right now with regard to how TEKS are used for the growth component moving forward?
Well, I think that when you look at TEKS, and I would even say leaks, you can't separate one without the other. You're looking at what is the mission. You're looking at, again, I think with accountability. And again, I've been honest with having issues with TEKS for many years, where I think it's very punitive. But I think one of the things you look at the basis, it puts every teacher in the same box. And to be honest, a first-year teacher, second-year teacher looks completely different than a third-year or, a 10-year, 20-year teacher. So you're looking at what is the purpose? Is it accountability to improve or coach, or is it accountability to punish and be punitive? And I think in the past it was more of a punitive action that was there. That's the way it came across. And so I think that we have to address it. Because the goal is to make sure that all the teachers are improving. I don't care where you're at in your stage of life, we can always improve. And I think that, does the tool allow us to do that? Is it something that, provides time for feedback? Again, as Goldman mentioned, time is one of the things we just don't have a lot of. It is set, it is concrete. And I would even say, again, why I threw in leaks with that, the time as an administrator can be very overwhelming as well. Initially when TEKS came out, every single teacher had to be observed 6 times. And I can tell you personally, that meant that I probably did not have a lot of time to go in and have in-depth discussions, because on top of that, I had duties and responsibilities, especially as a small town administrator or school administrator. There were times I was called to, come serve in the food line, come drive the bus. My morning duties and other duties dealing with parents or individuals that came on. So it is trying to give something that creates an atmosphere. And I think that's what, when you talk about leadership and what I even drew from there, so much of what you're talking about is setting up the environment, the culture, allowing, people to have the time to have, really I would say collegiate type dialogue that's going on. And I think they're, again, trying to build that relationship. So, what we can look at here in, the accountability piece is, again, it really needs to be looked at from top to bottom. Because I just don't believe it serves us well, because it is a one-size-fits-all mentality that was created. And being an administrator, I could only think that some schools up here, you have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 kids in a school. What type of personnel that means, how many teachers you got to have to serve there. And so how do you, prioritize your time? And that, I think those are discussions. I think the report, shows, how close we are, as we just don't have enough time. So we're trying to prioritize our time so we can make the best out of our time we have with the kids. So ongoing discussions on that, definitely, something that, I know I've talked about, both, as superintendent and, and politically as well. So, it is something that needs to be addressed, and I think, Sherry, but it's, both leadership. Again, I cannot say enough about leadership, because if you don't have the right leader, then that means people like our teacher of the year can't do her job. And that's why, I would always say that the local principal, school principal, is probably about the most important individual that you have, because that person will set the tone and the entire environment, learning environment of that school.
Thank you. I had one other question in this, and I just want to make sure that I heard you right. It had something to do with, I'm just going to paraphrase this, as an easier pathway to certification. And is that something that was really embraced by the group? Because that's a little contrary to what we often hear.
Right. Well, I think in terms of easier, meaning making it accessible, making it affordable, and because lots of times in terms of getting certifications, you're teaching at the same time when people are trying to get certifications. So those were kind of the discussions that were had about making. It doesn't mean making it like diminishing the value of what you're learning in your program. Right. It's not talking about diminishing the rigor of the program. It's talking about the accessibility of programs and the availability of programs to teachers.
Okay, great.
And to people who want to become teachers.
Right, and then with regard to the report, I see you've got a big stack.
I got a stack. I got a copy for you.
Okay, I was curious. And is that Carl Vinson report, is that available publicly online?
It will be available online as soon as this board meeting ends. Yes, and actually, we have a representative here from Carl Vinson who has joined us. Our moderator was Russ Cook, but he wasn't able to join us today. However, we have representation from Carl Vinson. We greatly, the work that y'all did, I can't speak more highly about it. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
As far as the performance appraisal part, I found you singled it out, but I think that's very important because, as an example, because so many times, and I've managed lots of people in my career, is that the person who's giving the performance evaluation hasn't had the kind of training that they need to know how to do it. And it's generally my rule of thumb is if you haven't discussed something with someone throughout the year and given them ways to improve on it, it shouldn't be on their performance appraisal for the first time. And I think that happens very often, and that's what causes some of that animosity, uncertainty. There's also a possibility of uncoupling the performance appraisal from the monetary part. And some organizations do it that way, not that you don't get the monetary, but it's not, if you want to make the performance appraisal more something as a positive experience that you're going to work on with it, sometimes it needs to be separated from the money part because you think it either or. You think, oh, well, if I get this good appraisal, I'm going to get this good raise, and then that means I'm fine and I don't have to do anything more. And so it's kind of a teamwork effort in that way.
Any other questions?
Sure. I just want to thank you personally for all of the remarkable work and the insights that you brought. I know that speaking on behalf of my fellow board members that they've been delighted with the interaction that you've had and what you brought. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And as mentioned,
Our long friendship going forward. And AJ, thank you for him too.
First man.
Yeah. This will be, I guess, Sherry's last official day with us as Teacher of the Year. We'll be passing that baton over, but I do want to say again, thank you, Sherry. It's been a delight for your work and service. The work will continue to go on. As we've talked, please, don't feel that we're, going to forget you with that, because I think you've placed your mark, and this is something I think having the leadership we have. But Ms. White, if you would come up here, please, and Sherry, if you would come at this time, since we are saying a few goodbyes here.
But I do want to present both of you with the Distinguished Service Medal from the Department of Education for what you have done and for your service. So I wish to say again, congratulations and job well done, okay? So thank you very much. All right. Mr. Chair, that is the end of the superintendent's report.
Very good, thank you, sir. All right, we will move on to the chair's report, and first and foremost, Ms. Helen, if you would do the honor, we have a presentation today from
Yes.
Dyslexia. I'd like for you to introduce.
Well, we have Dr. Dooley and Dr. Lundstrom here with us, and they were a part of what we've been working on with our committee with the dyslexia rule. And of course, they have been here supporting numerous things in teaching and learning. But when I saw that there were some dyslexia videos and some things that were out and through the university system, and you're here as a part with us from the university system, I said to Matt last month, I said, hey, can we get them to come and maybe show to our board some of the things that are happening with dyslexia and some updates that are coming up with dyslexia. So they brought the handbook, and Jennifer, I'll just turn it over to you to start out with, and we'll go from there.
All right, well, thank you so much, Helen, and thank you all for inviting me to speak. It has been such a pleasure to be working with many of you in the room and those who are not here since September. I started in my role as the statewide dyslexia coordinator, and as Helen said, my current role is also at the University of Georgia in the Department of Communication Sciences and Special Education, and co-director of the dyslexia program there. We were the first program in the state that predated the legislation, actually, that we started to offer a dyslexia certificate. It was not an endorsement at the time because there was not such a thing. But because of Senate Bill 48 and the dyslexia law, we do now have a dyslexia endorsement in the state, among other initiatives that are part of that law. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and what we've done in the state since I've been in this position in September. Okay, it's working. Excellent. Okay, so although the law was passed in 2019, there was some work that was done starting that summer, and that really was the pilot districts. There are 7 pilot districts in the state that are part of trying to figure out what this is going to look like when we have to roll out the law or implement the law in 2024-25 school year. So part of this role is me helping and working with those 7 pilot districts. And then we just completed year 2 of implementation. So you'll see in the first box up there, the recently released, the 2020-2021 Dyslexia Pilot Implementation Analysis and Executive Summary. And that was released in the fall. And that is a summary, a fairly detailed summary of how that first year of implementation went. And as you can imagine, there were a lot of challenges because, again, as we just heard from Sherry, it was also pandemic. So on top of trying to implement and figure out new processes and procedures, they were also faced with many other challenges. So that was really informative in how what the 2022-23 school year is going to be looking like. We also just finished interviews with those 7 districts from year 2 of implementation. Those were completed on Friday, so that report will be coming out in the fall. And we will learn what they've changed based on what they learned in the first year of implementation. So we are very appreciative of those 7 pilot districts. We meet regularly on a monthly basis, if not more, to talk through, again, questions they have, challenges, plans for implementation, and other related issues. Something else that we created since September was the Dyslexia Endorsement Program Guidance. And as I'm talking about these things, the final slide I'll be showing you is our website that has links to all of this information in detail. So I'm just providing a summary right now. The Dyslexia Endorsement Program Guidance is something that I created with several colleagues to provide guidance for prospective students or teachers who are looking to enroll in a dyslexia endorsement program and what to be looking for. Currently, there are 16 approved programs, 8 of which, actually it might be 9, are RESAs and the other are in institutes of higher education. And I'm working with them. We're actually meeting in about a week and a half to look at their programs and look at the guidance that is offered to see how to make sure that we are all working together and with the same goal and providing the type of training that we would expect in structured literacy and the science of reading, and then how specifically we can train teachers in supporting students with dyslexia. And then we recently were able to, with the support of the board, provide contracts to 14 dyslexia endorsement programs. And that was just over $100,000 each, and they are using it in a variety of different ways. I know at UGA they are offering up to 45 scholarships, 2,000 each. Some of the RESAs are providing 100% tuition support. The funds can also be used for program improvement, additional training for the instructors, additional professional development that may not be already incorporated in the program for teachers, so a variety of different things. It can also be for materials. And then I'm very excited and proud of our Dyslexia Awareness video series that we released in April. Many of you may have already had the opportunity to watch those videos. If not, I encourage you to do so. I'll show you in just a minute where you can access those. But we contracted with an expert at UGA, whom I've worked closely with, but she and others have provided the content and created these videos. There are 4 total that I'll share with you more in just a second. And they're about 10 minutes each, and the final one, the 4th one, is about 20 minutes. And they are designed to be viewed as a sequence. They build on one another, but they can also be viewed in isolation. But the intended audience is quite large. We are offering these for administrators, schools, parents. We're encouraging districts to have links to these videos on their websites. And the other exciting part of this is for the dyslexia endorsement programs. We also created assessment questions to go along with these videos, so they can incorporate these videos in their courses, and then we can provide assessment data to show that the teachers have been exposed to and how they performed after watching the videos and additional supplementary content. And coming soon, as you know, as Helen mentioned, we hope to have the dyslexia board rule for the July meeting. And there was a series of 3 committee meetings with several of you here that we're part of, and I really appreciate the ongoing support. So I think that we are, I felt very encouraged by those meetings and where we are with it, and hope that we continue to move forward with that. And once we have that board rule, we'll be creating a dyslexia task force and a sub-task force that will be looking primarily or helping to support screening. That's a big issue and questions that have come up from our pilot districts and other districts on how do we address screening, what kinds of screeners should we be using, what does that process look like. As Sherry already mentioned, there's a lot of assessment challenges and feeling overwhelmed by educators in the schools. What does this look like in the context of current assessments that are already being administered? And the takeaway with that is the fewer the better. Let's look at what we're already using and see if that is meeting the needs for a dyslexia screener, and if not, what needs to change, and that's the guidance we'll be providing. And then just the dyslexia informational handbook, you have copies of it, board members do. That was one that was revised in January with the intent of finalizing or revising it again. I don't know if there's ever a finalizing it. Once we have the board rule and have the screening processes in place, that we will update that. And from that, we will be providing a parent handbook specifically for school districts to use. It's much more condensed and it's not over 80 pages long. So just coming back briefly to the Dyslexia Awareness videos, this is a 4-part series. What is dyslexia is the first one. Reading development and dyslexia is the next one. Video 3 is dyslexia and the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That's a really common topic and questions around that, and what does this look like for students who show characteristics of dyslexia, and then when and how might they be referred for special education support. And then the final one is structured literacy and dyslexia. So for those of you even remotely up to date in the world of dyslexia and reading, structured literacy is probably a term you've heard often, and if you haven't heard it, I strongly encourage you to read or to watch this video 4. But it is something that we would like to see in place, even beginning at tier 1, and then building on that for subsequent tiers. And finally, so here is, I don't know if we can actually get to the dyslexia website. This is hyperlinked. Is that something that John might do? I don't know if he can click on it, but I can show you. So here's our dyslexia website, and if we can click on it, we can bring you to that. But right away, you'll see the dyslexia video series. There's a flyer with a brief description or summary of each of the 4 videos and links to each of the videos. The dyslexia handbook is right there. And then if you scroll down, once you're on the website, you'll see all the dyslexia endorsement programs that are listed, the 7 pilot districts, and so on. So that's kind of your one-stop shop for all things related to dyslexia, and we update that regularly. I also have professional development flyers for teachers, educators, administrators, parents of free professional development opportunities each month that are offered. All right, and that is all I have for now. The final slide is just a thank you. And any questions? I can't get to it.
Are you going to show the video, part of the video? Like, it won't hyperlink, it won't come out?
If the person who, yes, we can. It's 10. They're each 10 minutes. I'm happy to.
Oh, they might not want to.
But
they're so good. Martha's shaking her head. So
No, I was just saying we can watch them individually. That's the beauty of them.
Oh yeah.
They're great.
This was just a time to share, but that certainly.
They are. Me too.
They're really good. So. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
the
everybody.
information.
Did anyone have any questions or follow-up regarding the presentation? All right.
Really good work. Great work.
Absolutely. A lot of people have put a lot of work into this, and we're very appreciative of that. So thank you.
The advisory group, I have to say, the 28, and there are people that on this board that work with it. I think it was, and I hope, Jennifer, that y'all will continue to pull from that group.
Well, I mean, we've made such a leap on this particular issue nationally because it was something nobody talked about for such a very long time. A lot of people didn't even know. They just dealt with it. In fact, I met this man that was 55 years old working as a shipping supervisor, and he had been dyslexic his whole life, just found out, but he had compensated. I mean, he had figured out a way. He was a very smart man, compensated. He had just figured it out, but that he, understanding what was wrong with him and how he could fix it, just even catapulted him even farther than what he was able to accomplish. So this is so good that we're able to have early intervention and be able to have children, students, teachers know how to deal with it. It feels like such a leap, and it's really important.
I think the screener is going to be one of the biggest things. That's the biggest leap, because you have to have the right screeners with the right options there at the right grade level, and that's going to be key for all of what we do, because that keeps tier 1 where they should be, with resources aligned. And I hope we can figure that out with the data that we're seeing, that structured literacy that is really part of the key, not just for dyslexic kids, but for all of our kids. If we get this right, it's going to help benefit every one of our kids in our state. So thank you for the work, and everybody that worked on it with you at DOE. Appreciate that. Take a look at the handbook. It's really got a lot of information in it too. Those are key.
All right. We have some special guests that I think they arrived a little bit after we started the meeting, but some of our partners with Curriculum Associates are here, and they have some exciting news, an exciting presentation of resolution that we have as a board for their extraordinary educator. And I wanted to invite Craig Walker, who is here with us from Curriculum Associates, if you'd like to say a few words, and then we'll do the presentation of the resolution.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. We are here to congratulate Regina Norman for her extraordinary work with her students, and we are very thankful that the board has agreed to write a resolution in her favor. And at this time, if you guys would like to present that to her, that'd be wonderful. Regina.
Okay, I have here a resolution to honor and congratulate the 2022 Curriculum Associates Extraordinary Educator, whereas it's fitting that we should pause to specially recognize those outstanding teachers who have devoted their careers to providing the highest quality education for Georgia students, and whereas Miss Regina Hewlett-Norman was recently named as 2022 Extraordinary Educator by Curriculum Associates, a most befitting honor that recognizes the positive influence she has on many young lives, who has distinguished themselves as professionals of the greatest dedication, ability, and integrity, and whereas this extraordinary educator is among 35 teachers nationwide chosen to receive this prestigious honor, which celebrates and connects teachers across the nation who exhibit best-in-class use of iReady and/or Ready instructional resources, illustrate growth and achievement via formal assessments, demonstrate classroom innovation and engagement practices for students, and are evangelists for high standards and student achievement. And whereas this extraordinary educator truly epitomizes dedicated teachers who are wholly committed to the highest ideals of public service and quality education for all, and should be specially recognized, as nothing is more vital to the future of our state than the education of our young people. They exemplify the selfless dedication that is characteristic of our finest teachers and serve as an inspiration to their colleagues and students alike, and their friendship and counsel are highly valued by those who are fortunate to know them. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Georgia Board of Education that we hereby honor and congratulate Ms. Regina Hewlett-Norman on her selection as 2022 Curriculum Associates Extraordinary Educator, commend her exceptional service to the children of Georgia, salute her professional expertise and personal excellence, and express our most sincere best wishes for her continued success. I present you with the resolution. Congratulations. I invited her to say a few words, but if anyone would like to speak to her afterwards, I think she'll be sticking around after the meetings. Thank you so much.
Can we get a picture with the board of her? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. Everybody come on up. Let's get a quick picture.
We appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Let's, I'm trying to push this on that.
Thank you.
All right. It's all good. Let's all get comfortable. We're family. Come on.
You are the principal.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks all for doing that. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We don't have everyone's signature on the resolution because we have some board members that are out with us today. We'll make sure we get everybody's signature.
Thank you.
Right. I wanted to let everyone know that we have some board members that are not with us, present today physically, but they are present. They actually were presenting to a panel. They were part of a panel, let me say it that way, at a superintendent's conference. And so that is why they were not with us yesterday at the committee meetings. They have been down there. One of the things that I have tried to stress as chair, and Chairman Sweeney, when he was chair, did as well, trying to get us more involved in different advocacy groups around the state as they have their conferences, GSSA, GSBA. I very much want us as a board to know that we support everything that our educators do, that our administrators do. Last week, we had 2 of our board members who are at this conference. This week, they were at the conference, the GSBA conference, and sat on a panel in Savannah. And I'm very appreciative of the hard work that our board members are doing as we go out. We have a Gale conference, I believe, next month, that some of our board members will be attending. And so it's very exciting, and I'm really pleased that we have board members that are doing that. I wanted to let you all know we are still planning the retreat. I've been speaking with Mr. Mike Long, who is on the line right now. He has done a wonderful job. I can't spill all the secrets. He won't even tell me exactly what he's got planned, but some really exciting stuff. I would encourage, if you can make it down there, to be there. Let us know, because today is the cutoff for reserving hotel rooms. And I've been trying to get some of our partners at the Gold Dome to join us. I have a very special guest who's going to be joining us and speaking to us, actually a couple, on Monday. I'm not really ready to tell everyone who that is yet, but all I can say is you will definitely want to be there, and it ties neatly into the theme of this year's retreat, which is going to be about career pathways. And so I think it's just going to be a really fun time. For those of y'all that were there last year, it was fun. It got crazy and fun, and I hope that we will have fun again this year at the retreat, and that will be October 10th through 12th on Jekyll Island. And so, for the good of the board, does anybody have anything they would like to share? Yes, Ms. Kenmore.
Graduations at our state schools. We had 3 graduations at the Georgia School for the Deaf, the Atlanta Area School for the Deaf, and the Georgia Academy for the Blind, and it was just phenomenal and exciting. I was able to go to all 3, and Chairman joined me for Georgia Academy for the Blind, and Mr. Donaldson joined me at the AASD graduation. And they were so excited, and they are accomplishing so many wonderful things. We are the board for the state schools, so if you have an opportunity, reach out to the superintendents or the leaders of those schools and let them know just how much we appreciate what they're doing for our students that are part of those schools.
Thank you, Ms. Kenmore.
Also, this past Saturday was the valedictorian graduation presentation. Reception across the street of all of our students across the state, and Georgia Student Finance, of course, with our governor and our Chancellor, Sonny Perdue, was there. So just a way to say thank you to them again, and what they did to make the reception so great. It was enjoyable. I think we all 3 sat there in that sun beaming right there, but it was, we survived, and Richard was on the other side fanning, and I could see him. But it was a great, wouldn't you say, it was a great day.
It really was. It was.
And the mascots were there, and
Yeah,
and Sherry and AJ were there, so not only did the students want to take their pictures with the mascots and of course with our governor, but also our champs. If you were going to the University of Georgia, he had quite a line of people coming up. So it was a great day. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anything else? Ms. Petty?
I was just going to mention that in February, our speaker, Bill Alexander, who gave us a synopsis of the talk, his book is out now, and he is working diligently to make sure all graduating seniors of the class of 2023 gets a free copy of that book.
That'd be great.
So hopefully that will happen. I don't know about you guys, but I've started giving my abbreviated version of the talk every time I'm with somebody. So looking forward to hoping all of our seniors get a free copy of that book.
Great.
Nice having you be here.
Anything further for the good of the board? On a final note, this is in fact Sherry's last meeting with us as our Teacher of the Year, and she has served for the past year as an ex officio member, a non-voting member of the board. And we were talking about the law that was passed, which places the Teacher of the Year on the board, and that our previous Teacher of the Year kind of came in after the fact and served for a couple of months. So you are the first Teacher of the Year that has served a full term, a full year on the board with us. And I hate it for the teachers of the year in the future, but you have set the bar extremely high. We now have high expectations of everyone that will follow you. And so we appreciate all that you've done. I have invited Sherry to come and speak at our retreat, mainly because we just have so much fun with Sherry and AJ, so we wanted them at the retreat. So she'll be one of our speakers on Monday, and we're really excited about that. But you don't have to wait until then to see us. You are welcome anytime to come to any of the board meetings to spend time with us, and we have enjoyed the past year getting to know you, getting to know AJ, and what you've done is amazing. I mean, you really have set the bar high, not just being an ex officio member on this board, but as Teacher of the Year. What you've done is transformative, and I truly believe that the work that you've put into this with teacher burnout and something that's very passionate about the profession that we have and the realities of what we're facing today, I really think it will transform the way that we look at the profession. And I appreciate you, and if any of the board members have any follow-up comments they'd like to make, parting words as Sherry leaves us today.
I think you know how I feel. I mean, and all of us, you've just been such a gift, and a gift that had the knowledge and the passion and the desire to work and make things better. So thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity, for allowing me to, I've definitely felt part of the family. And I thank you so much for welcoming me so warmly and so openly, and for listening, for having your ears open and your hearts open. I truly, getting to know all of you, I know that every single one of you, your heart is in education. You believe in the future of every student of this state, and I greatly appreciate everything that you all are doing up here. So thank you very much.
Well, you were just such a team member, and we appreciate that so much about you.
Thank you very much.
You should probably stay another year and train the next. Just saying.
That'd be great if we could do it that way.
Just saying.
Did you make that as a motion?
Constantly emotional.
All right, anything else for the good of the board? I will entertain a motion to adjourn at this time. Oh, wow, okay. Mr. Johnson, hello, Mr. Johnson. Motion for Mr. Second from Mr. Sweeney. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It may not be a line now. Any opposed? We are adjourned.
And
Thank you.
It is Mike Royal's birthday.
And it's Mike Royal's
birthday.
I won't say what birthday, it's his birthday, so.
Oh, come on.